Imagine your phone for a moment. Just picture it in your hand.
Hmm.
It's not just a device, is it? It's more like a portal.
A portal, yeah. It's a good way to put it. Connects you instantly, anywhere, to anyone, plus all that information.
Exactly, a whole universe of stuff. So how did this little slab of glass and metal actually come to be? It feels like it just appeared, but the story is much longer.
Oh, it's an incredible journey.
Yeah.
It really shows how that basic human desire, just to connect across distance, drove so much innovation. And it evolved into, well, arguably the most essential tool we have now.
Absolutely. So today, we're doing a deep dive into that history. The telephone story is extraordinary, sometimes pretty controversial, always fascinating.
Right. It spans centuries, involves these brilliant minds, but also some really fierce rivalries. It's all about that constant human yearning to connect.
Our mission then is to unpack that journey from just a concept, really, to this incredibly complex thing we all rely on, and hopefully find some of those surprising facts, those real aha moments along the way.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The very beginning.
Let's do it. Way before electricity, even. This desire to send voiceover distance, it goes back further than you might think.
Yeah, people have always wanted to shout further than their voice could carry, right?
Pretty much. And some cultures actually figured out ways to do it, sort of, like the Chamu culture in Peru, way back in the 7th century AD. They had these, well, basically string telephones.
Made of gourds and stretched tight, I believe. Like the kind kids make, but maybe a bit more effective.
Exactly. And what's wild is almost 1,000 years later, in 1667, Robert Hooke in England, he independently invents a very similar acoustic string telephone.
Which proves the core concept, right? That you can convert sound, make it travel along a medium. It showed voice didn't have to be stuck right where you spoke it.
But the real game changer, the thing that unlocked everything, was electricity.
The electrical foundation.
Charles Morrison had the theoretical idea back in 1753, using electricity for messages. Then, the telegraph came along, Gauss and Weber, Samuel Morse. They laid the practical groundwork.
Right, they built the infrastructure, the understanding of electrical signals. But it was still just code, dots and dashes. The big challenge was sending voice, actual human speech.
Precisely. And that set the stage for this really intense race in the mid-1870s.
Oh yeah, a total fever pitch of invention. Lots of people working on it, often overlapping, sometimes stepping on each other's toes. This idea of a speaking telegraph was in the air.
So who are the key players before the names we usually hear?
Well, you had Innocenzo Manzetti in Italy back in 1844, apparently first suggesting the idea. Then a French guy, Charles Bourseul, in 1854, outlined the make and break principle.
Make and break, what's that?
It's the idea that a vibrating surface, like something mimicking the eardrum, could rapidly connect and disconnect an electrical circuit. So turning the smooth wave of sound into choppy electrical pulses, a key theoretical step.
Okay, got it. And then Johann Philipp Reis in Germany.
Right, Reis in 1861, he actually built a device, called it the telephone. Apparently, it could send musical notes pretty well and sometimes maybe some muffled speech. Thomas Edison later gave Reis credit, called him the first inventor.
Edison said that. Interesting. But the story that always gets me is Antonio Meucci.
Ah, Meucci, yes, the Italian immigrant in New York. A really poignant story. He developed his teletrofono way back, maybe as early as 1849.
And he filed a patent caveat, right, like a placeholder.
Exactly, a caveat for a sound telegraph in 1871. But he was struggling financially. He apparently couldn't even afford the $10 or whatever it was to maintain it, and it lapsed. Just gone.
Unbelievable. And this fight isn't even over, is it? I mean, you mentioned the modern echoes.
Right. Fast forward to 2002, the U.S. House of Representatives passes this resolution recognizing Meucci's work. Huge deal, especially in Italy.
But then
the Canadian Parliament jumps in and reaffirms Bell's status as the inventor. So, yeah, the controversy is still alive and kicking. It shows how much national pride gets wrapped up in these things, too.
wow. Okay, so this all leads up to the climax, the sort of nail-biting finish at the patent office. February 14th, 1876.
An absolutely crucial date, and the timing is just incredible.
Well, tell us about it. You have Elisha Gray, who's a big deal, right? Co-founder Western Electric.
Very prominent inventor. On the morning of February 14th, he files a patent caveat. Remember, that's the notice of intent for a telephone using a liquid transmitter.
And what was special about a liquid transmitter?
It was more sophisticated design. Imagine a needle attached to a diaphragm vibrating in a slightly acidic water solution. As sound waves hit the diaphragm, the needle moves up and down in the liquid, changing the electrical resistance really smoothly. It was potentially much better for transmitting the nuances of speech than earlier designs.
Okay, so Gray files his caveat in the morning. Then what?
Then, just a few hours later, on the same day, Alexander Graham Bell, who was actually a professor of vocal physiology working with the deaf so he understood sound deeply, files a full patent application for a telephone.
A full application, not just a caveat.
Right. And Bell gets the patent, U.S. Patent 174,465, granted incredibly quickly on March 7th.
But hang on, the timing, the similarity. People must have cried foul immediately.
Oh, absolutely. Allegations started flying almost instantly. The liquid transmitter Bell described in his patent, and particularly the one he used in his first successful test just days later, looked suspiciously like Gray's design in the caveat.
So the theory was he saw Gray's filing.
That was the accusation, that a corrupt patent examiner might have shown Bell Gray's confidential papers.
Yeah.
And Bell himself later admitted in a letter, I think, that he knew Gray's caveat involved the vibration of a wire in water.
Yeah.
That fueled the fire for over a century.
But there's newer research, right? You mentioned Dr. Brown.
Yes, Dr. Benjamin Brown, around 2020. He published research looking at Bell's lab notes and even personal letters, suggesting Bell had actually conceived of a liquid transmitter himself, possibly weeks before Gray filed his caveat. There's apparently a sketch in a letter to his fiancée.
That's still murky.
It's definitely complicated. It makes you ask, what does it really mean to invent something? Is it just having the idea, building a prototype? Or is it getting the patent, making it work reliably, building a business around it, changing the world?
That's a great question. Because Bell didn't just get the patent.
No, far from it. Meucci had something early but lacked the funds. Gray had an advanced design but didn't follow through quickly enough with a full patent. Bell, though, he got the patent, he did the famous demonstration, and he immediately formed the Bell Telephone Company in 1877.
Which became AT&T eventually.
Exactly. His success was as much about, brilliant strategy, patent law, commercial drive, as it was about the initial invention. He put all the pieces together. Innovation isn't always just one eureka moment. It's often this messy convergence of ideas, competition, timing, and execution.
Okay, so regardless of the controversy, the first intelligible sentence gets transmitted. That's the moment things really change.
Right. March 10th, 1876. Just 3 days after the patent was granted, Bell's working with his assistant, Thomas A. Watson.
And the famous story, he spills battery acid.
Apparently so. And he speaks into the transmitter. Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you.
And Watson hears it.
Clear as day in the other room. Rushes in. That was it. The first proper telephone call.
And the irony you mentioned is the device he used for that call
Was a liquid transmitter. Very similar in principle to Gray's caveat design. History has a sense of humor sometimes.
Bell then moved fast, founded the company in 77, first commercial exchange in New Haven in 78.
But, a really critical improvement came not from Bell, but from his big rival, Thomas Edison.
Ah, Edison enters the picture.
Yep. In 1877, Edison patents his carbon microphone. It used little carbon granules that got compressed by sound waves, changing the resistance. It produced a much stronger, clearer electrical signal than Bell's early electromagnetic transmitters.
So Bell had to use it.
Bell Telephone licensed it pretty quickly. And Edison's carbon transmitter design became the standard, really, for almost 100 years. It's another example of how innovation builds Bell's concept, Edison's crucial improvement, together making the practical telephone possible.
Okay, so we have working phones, but connecting just two phones isn't very useful. You need a network.
Exactly. Direct lines don't scale. You need a central hub, the telephone exchange. And that meant you needed operators.
The human element. And initially they hired boys.
They did, but apparently their temperament wasn't quite right. Too restless, maybe pulling pranks. It didn't work well for the careful job of patching calls through.
So they turned to women.
Right. Boston Telephone Dispatch made a key decision. September 1st, 1878, they hire Emma Nutt, the first female telephone operator.
And she set the standard.
Her calm, patient demeanor became the model. It birthed the whole hello girl image and, importantly, created a massive new employment opportunity for women in technology, which was pretty rare then.
But as networks grew, just asking for someone by name became tricky, right?
Yeah, imagine an operator having to memorize hundreds, then thousands of names. It wasn't scalable, and it was vulnerable. This doctor in Lowell, Massachusetts, Moses Greeley Parker.
The measles epidemic story.
That's the one. Around 1879, there's a measles outbreak. He worries, what if the town's 4 operators, who knew everyone, get sick? The whole system collapses.
So he came up with
Telephone numbers. Assign a unique number to each line. That way, anyone could be trained quickly as a substitute, just connecting number A to number B. Simple idea, but fundamental for scaling the entire network. Genius, really.
But human operators, even with numbers,
Oh,
still
yeah.
potential problems, right? Errors, delays, maybe even deliberate mischief.
Definitely. Privacy was an issue. And then you get the story of Almond Brown Strowger.
The Undertaker, I love this story.
Right. He's an undertaker in Kansas City. Business isn't great. And he gets suspicious. He thinks the local operator, who happens to be the wife of his competitor, the other undertaker in town, is maybe redirecting his calls.
You can just picture his frustration,
Yeah.
whether it was true or not.
Exactly. True or not, it spurred him, a guy with zero technical background, to invent a way around her. In 1888, he dreams up an automatic telephone exchange, gets it patented in 1891.
The Strowger switch, or step-by-step, how did that work?
It was this amazing electromechanical contraption. When you dialed a number on your phone, this is where the rotary dial comes in later, each pulse of electricity would move these little mechanical arms inside the switch, step by step, connecting switches until your line was connected to the right destination. No human intervention needed.
Incredible. And the first automatic exchange.
The LaPorte, Indiana, 1892, based on Strowger's system. This was really the beginning of the end for manual switchboards, all driven by one undertaker's desire for impartiality, or maybe just paranoia.
So local networks are getting automated? The next big hurdle? Distance,
Yeah.
connecting cities, then the whole country.
Yeah, conquering distance. AT&T, which grew out of Bell Telephone, took this on big time under its president, Theodore Vail. He committed to a transcontinental line in 1909.
Must have been a massive project.
Huge. Took years, stringing nearly 5,000 miles of copper wire. They finally joined the lines, raised the last pole near Wendover on the Utah-Nevada border in 1914.
And the grand opening.
January 25, 1915. Timed perfectly for the Panama Pacific Exposition in San Francisco. It was a real PR event, a complex four-way call.
Who was on it?
You had Bell himself in New York, Watson, his old assistant in San Francisco, Vail, the AT&T president down in Georgia, and President Woodrow Wilson in the White House.
Wow. And they reenacted the first call.
They did. Bell says, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you." And Watson famously replies from across the continent, "It will take me 5 days to get there now."
Fantastic line. And what made that long distance possible? Just thicker wires?
Wires helped, but the key invention was Lita Forrest's Audion vacuum tube. It was basically the first electronic amplifier. It could take that faint signal from thousands of miles away and boost it back up, making long-distance calls clear. Without the vacuum tube amplifier, transcontinental calls wouldn't have worked well.
Okay, continent conquered. Next up, the ocean.
The final frontier for wires, anyway. They had radio telephone links from 1927, but they were kind of unreliable, crackly. A physical cable was the dream.
Much harder than land, I imagine. Underwater amplifier.
Exactly. A huge challenge. How do you build reliable repeaters, amplifiers, that can sit on the ocean floor for decades? It took until 1956 for TT1, the first transatlantic telephone cable, to become operational.
TAT1. How many calls could it handle?
Just 36 simultaneous voice circuits. Seems tiny now, but it was revolutionary. Clear, reliable calls between North America and Europe. The true global network was finally taking shape.
Okay, so the network is global. Let's talk about the phone itself, the thing you actually held. It changed a lot, too.
Oh, absolutely. Early on, from maybe the 1890s to the 1940s, the dominant look was the candlestick.
Right. Separate mouthpiece on a stand, receiver held to your ear. Looks very formal now.
And kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Plus, you usually needed a separate box on the wall for the ringer and the electrical bits. Cumbersome.
Then came the rotary phone. That felt like a big leap.
Huge leap ergonomically. Around the 1930s, combining the mouthpiece and receiver into one handset you could hold comfortably. And the rotary dial itself was ingenious, sending those precise electrical pulses for the Strowger switches.
We all remember those iconic models, like the Western Electric black ones. They were everywhere for decades.
The 302, the 500, absolute classics. But then another revolution, push buttons.
Touch tone, November 18th, 1963.
Right, the Bell system rolls it out. And this wasn't just about dialing faster. It was a fundamental shift in technology.
How so? It just made different sounds, right?
Exactly. Instead of pulses, each button generated a unique sound, a combination of two specific frequencies, dual-tone multi-frequency, DTMF. Faster, yes, but the real significance was those tones could carry information beyond just dialing a number.
Ah, like for computers.
Precisely. Bell Labs engineers knew this. That's why they deliberately included the star and pound hashtag keys. They weren't needed for dialing, but they anticipated future data services. The touch-tone phone was, in effect, the first mass-market modem. It let people interact with computers over the phone line for the first time. Think early phone banking, automated menus. It turned the voice line into a data channel.
That's fascinating. I never realized and hashtag keys had that much foresight behind them. Now, underlying all this progress, especially in the later 20th century, was a more fundamental invention.
The transistor. Absolutely. Invented at Bell Labs in 1947. Bardeen, Bratton, Shockley. Nobel Prize stuff.
Changed everything, didn't it?
Completely. It replaced those bulky, hot, power-hungry vacuum tubes and the clunky electromechanical relays in the switching stations. Transistors were tiny, reliable, used way less power.
And that enabled
The shift to digital. Everything we've talked about so far was mostly analog sending voice as a continuous electrical wave. Transistors and later integrated circuits microchips made digital telephony practical. Things like pulse code modulation, turning voice into streams of ones and zeros.
like computer data.
Exactly. And the MOSFET, a specific type of transistor, was key for making chips dense and cheap. This led to computer-based electronic switching systems, much faster and more efficient networks, clearer calls, and new features like caller ID, voicemail, and eventually voice over IP, sending calls over the internet. The transistor basically made the modern digital communication world possible.
While the network was going digital, people wanted freedom within their homes too, the cordless phone.
Right. The quest for local mobility. Early ones came out around 1980, but they were not great.
Expensive, bad quality.
Both. And crucially, terrible security. They used standard analog radio frequencies, like FM radio. Anyone with a basic radio scanner could just listen into your conversations. Not ideal.
Yeah, definitely not. So what fixed that?
Technology matured in the 90s. Better frequencies, and then the big shift around 1995 to digital spread spectrum, DSS.
DSS.
It digitized your voice like we talked about, and then sort of spread the signal across many frequencies, hopping between them rapidly. Made it virtually impossible for a scanner to pick up the whole conversation. Suddenly, cordless phones were secure and reliable. They went from a flawed novelty to a standard household item.
Okay, so freedom in the house. But the real dream was cutting the cord entirely. Taking the phone anywhere, mobile phones.
The ultimate untethering. And the very first mobile services weren't handheld. They were for cars.
Because you needed space for the equipment.
Exactly. Bell Systems Mobile Telephone Service, MTS, launched in St. Louis back in 1946. They called it 0G, like Generation Zero.
How practical was it?
Not very. The gear weighed like 80 pounds, took up half the trunk.
Yeah.
And in a whole city, only maybe 3 people could make a call at the same time.
Only 3.
Wow. Yeah. And you had to push to talk like a walkie-talkie and get an operator to connect you. Plus, it was crazy expensive, like $176 a month in today's money, plus per call fees.
So basically for the very wealthy or specific businesses.
Pretty much. It got a bit better with IMTS, improved mobile telephone service. In 1964, you could dial directly. But capacity was still the killer bottleneck. New York City had something like 2,000 subscribers sharing just 12 channels. You might wait half an hour just to get a dial tone.
Clearly not a mass market solution. What was needed was a completely new approach.
The cellular concept. The brilliant idea of dividing a city into small areas or cells. Each cell has its own low-power transmitter, and the key is you can reuse the same frequencies in non-adjacent cells.
Ah, so you can handle way more calls simultaneously in the same city.
Exactly. It massively increases capacity. Bell Labs did a lot of the theoretical work on cellular, but it was Motorola that really ran with a handheld device idea.
Which leads to that legendary moment.
April 3rd, 1973. Motorola engineer Martin Cooper is standing on a street corner in New York City. He pulls out this prototype handheld cellular phone.
The brick.
Well, the prototype of the brick. And he makes the first public mobile phone call. And who does he call?
His rival at Bell Labs.
Joel Engel, just to basically say, we did it first. Incredible bravado.
Took a while to get to market though, right?
Yeah, another decade. The infrastructure needed building, regulations needed sorting. But finally, in 1983, the Motorola Dynatac 8000X hits the market.
The actual brick, how big was it?
It was a beast. Weighed over 2 pounds, 10 inches long. Gave you maybe 30 minutes of talk time after charging it for 10 hours.
And the price?
Around 2,500 pounds back then, which is easily over $9,500. Maybe $10,000 in today's money.
Ouch. But still, it was freedom.
It was. The phone was finally truly mobile. A watershed moment.
Okay, so the brick arrives. Then, as the technology gets smaller and cheaper, especially with 2G digital networks in the 90s, we enter this
Wild period of design, right? Oh yeah, the Cambrian explosion of phone design from roughly the mid-90s to mid-2000s. Miniaturization was key. Digital networks offered better quality, so manufacturers started competing fiercely on looks and form factor.
What were some of the dominant shapes?
Well, you have the classic candy bar phone perfected. Think Nokia 3210 or 3310 internal antenna, those swappable faceplates, indestructible things.
Everyone had one of those.
Pretty much. Then the clamshell or flip phone became huge. Motorola StarTAC really kicked that off. So compact, and that satisfying snap when you opened or closed it.
Very cool factor. But things got weirder, too.
Oh, yeah. Sliders, where the screen slid up to reveal the keypad. Swivels, or part of the phone rotated. Remember the Motorola V70? Or some of those Nokia?
And then the really out there stuff. Fashion phones.
Totally. Nokia was famous for this. The 7280 lipstick phone, no keypad, just a scroll wheel. The teardrop-shaped 7600. Siemens had their Zilibri line. And who could forget the Nokia N-Gage?
The phone/gaming console. Didn't quite work, did it?
No, it was awkward as both.
Yeah.
Ambitious, but a flop.
So, looking back at all these crazy shapes and designs, what's the takeaway?
What's really fascinating, I think, is that this whole period of intense hardware experimentation,
Yeah.
it kind of hit a dead end. It proved that making the phone twist or slide or look like lipstick wasn't the future.
The future was software.
Exactly. The power wasn't going to be in the physical shape, but in the flexibility and capability of the software running on the phone. That hardware zoo was fun, but it showed the limits of hardware-centric innovation in that space. The next leap had to be about the smart.
Which brings us to the smartphone, and it didn't start with the iPhone, right?
No, the idea was brewing for a while, mostly aimed at business users initially, trying to merge a phone with a PDA, a personal digital assistant.
So what was the first real smartphone?
Arguably, the IBM Simon Personal Communicator, back in 1994.
1994. Wow. What could it do?
It was genuinely revolutionary for its time. It had a monochrome LCD touchscreen, you used a stylus, and then had built-in apps, calendar, address book, notepad, email, even send or receive faxes. Combined a cell phone and a PDA.
So why didn't it take off?
Probably a bit ahead of its time. It was big and clunky, the battery only lasted about an hour, and it cost over $1,000 back then. It failed commercially, but conceptually. It laid out the blueprint for every smartphone that followed.
What else came before the iPhone?
You had the Nokia Communicator series, starting in '96, those big clam shells that opened up to a screen, and a full QWERTY keyboard, very popular with business types. And then, of course, BlackBerry.
Ah, the Crackberry.
Exactly. Research in motion focused on secure, instant push email. And that little physical keyboard was incredibly addictive for typing messages. Dominated the corporate world for years.
Yep. Then the game changed completely, January 9, 2007.
The iPhone launch. Steve Jobs on stage. It really was a watershed moment that just turned the entire industry upside down almost overnight.
Why was it so different? What were the key things?
I'd say three main things. First, the interface. That big, beautiful, capacitive touchscreen. Designed for your finger, not a stylus. And fluid multi-touch gestures, like pinch to zoom. It just felt intuitive and magical compared to everything else.
Okay, interface. What else?
Second, the internet experience. Before the iPhone, mobile web browsing was mostly these awful, stripped-down LEP sites. The iPhone had the first real desktop-class web browser, mobile Safari, on a phone. You could see actual websites.
Huge difference. And the third thing?
Maybe the most impactful in the long run, the ecosystem, specifically the App Store, which launched in 2008.
Right, letting other people make apps for the phone.
Exactly. It created this centralized, trusted place for third-party developers to create and sell software. Suddenly, the phone wasn't just what Apple made it. It was this infinitely expandable platform. Its capabilities could grow constantly, driven by millions of developers worldwide. That software-centric, app-driven model was the real revolution.
And the established players just couldn't adapt.
It happened incredibly fast. Companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, Microsoft, with Windows Mobile. They seemed obsolete almost instantly. The game was no longer about hardware features or keyboards. It was about the apps and the user experience. This led directly to the new rivalry, the duopoly we basically have today. Apple's iOS versus Google's Android, which launched on the HTC Dream later in 2008.
So let's just pause and reflect on that journey. You take Bell's original 1876 phone, maybe that candlestick model, just a single purpose, right? Voice, wire to the wall, fixed location, basic interface. And you compare it to the smartphone in your pocket right now.
The difference is just Staggering. It's not even the same category of object anymore, is it? Today's device is a powerful general-purpose networked computer. It's wireless, ultra-portable, has this incredible multi-touch interface, understands voice commands.
And it swallowed dozens of other technologies.
Totally. Your camera, GPS navigator, music player, video player, gaming console, wallet, your access to the entire internet, and literally millions of specialized apps for everything imaginable.
So what's the core shift boiled down?
I'd say Bell's original invention was fundamentally a tool for overcoming distance, making communication possible across space, the modern smartphone. It's become a tool for managing reality. It's how we navigate, organize, learn, shop, socialize, entertain ourselves. It mediates almost every aspect of modern life.
That's a powerful way to put it. Let's shift gears slightly and talk about the broader societal impact of the telephone long before smartphones. How did it change business in cities?
Oh, profoundly. For business, it was like injecting pure speed. No more waiting for letters or even telegrams. You can negotiate deals, place orders, handle customer service in real time. It massively accelerated the pace of commerce and fueled economic growth.
And you mentioned skyscrapers earlier. How did the phone enable those?
Before the phone, internal communication in a large building relied on messenger boys running up and down stairs. Not very efficient. The telephone allowed instant communication between floors, between offices, decoupling communication from physical proximity. That made really tall, dense office buildings practical in a way they weren't before.
And created new jobs, too.
Absolutely. Armies of switchboard operators, linemen installing and maintaining the network. Later on, entirely new industries like telemarketing and call centers sprung up because of it. It was fundamental in creating a truly national and then global marketplace.
What about the impact on just personal life, social connections, culture?
It literally shrunk the world. That feeling of distance being this insurmountable barrier. The phone turned it into more of an inconvenience. Families spread out by migration could suddenly maintain really close, intimate, real-time bonds. You could hear a loved one's voice instantly. That was huge for mitigating loneliness and maintaining social fabric across geography.
Did it create new social rules or problems?
Oh, yeah. New etiquette had to be invented. Like, how do you even answer the phone? Bell apparently favored ahoy hoy.
Ahoy! Seriously?
Yep. But Thomas Edison suggested hello, and that's the one that suck, obviously. But then you had new dilemmas. When is it okay to call someone? What about interrupting dinner? Privacy concerns. The phone, weaving itself into the social fabric, created ripples.
And its impact on women. We mentioned operators, but in the home.
It was complex. Yes, it created this massive, respectable job category for women as operators. But the phone in the home, used by women for maintaining social connections, gossip, that was sometimes dismissed by the male-dominated society of the time as frivolous.
Even though it was crucial for community.
Absolutely crucial for what we'd now call social networking, community building, sharing information, emotional support. But it wasn't always valued in the same way as men using the phone for serious business.
And what about rural areas, where distance was even more of a barrier?
The telephone was a lifeline there, especially the party line system.
Where multiple houses shared the same line.
Exactly. You had to wait your turn, and yes, your neighbors could definitely listen in to your calls. Zero privacy.
Sounds terrible now.
But back then, it was often seen differently. That lack of privacy fostered a kind of community awareness. People used the party line to share important news quickly, organize local events, summon help in emergencies. It was a vital tool against the profound isolation that could exist in rural life. It connected communities in a very tangible way.
So from the city skyscraper to the remote farmhouse party line, it really did redraw the map of how people connect.
Absolutely.
So reflecting on this whole journey, it's just incredible. We went from this simple mechanical curiosity born out of fierce competition and patent battles to building this vast global network connecting billions of people.
And ending up with this pocket-sized supercomputer that basically runs our lives.
It's quite a story. The telephone started by just wanting to conquer distance.
But the smartphone, as you said, it seems to be about conquering, well, almost everything else, managing reality.
Yeah. So the final thought to leave people with, if the very definition of a phone keeps expanding like this, constantly converging technologies, what's next? What other distinctions are going to dissolve when this device in our hand becomes even more central to managing, maybe even shaping our reality?
That's the big question, isn't it? Where does the convergence end, or does it? What happens when the tool for overcoming distance becomes the tool for defining presence itself? Food for thought.